Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at some very spicy battles in the Ultra League featuring XL Banette. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, so many thanks for the battle submission. Banette is a pure ghost type Pokemon with the moveset of Shadow Claw, Shadow Ball, and Dazzling Gleam. Banette is a Pokemon without a bait move, meaning that it can definitely be quite tough to use. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out XL Banette in action in the Ultra League. Hopping into the first match, sending Swampert into Jellicent. This is a fairly neutral lead across the board with a slight edge to Jellicent because Jellicent will reach the Shadow Ball just before Swampert is able to reach the Earthquake. Swampert letting that Shadow Ball through, and then in comes Banette. Opponent farms up and then brings in Scrafty. Banette farming up and going straight for that Dazzling Gleam. Do they respect the damage? They do not. Gets the screenshot as well. And down goes Scrafty. Back in comes the Jellicent, and this Jellicent is taking massive damage from Banette's Shadow Claws. Banette shields up the Shadow Ball and gonna fire off a Shadow Ball of its own. At this point, Jellicent has to respect the damage. They saw that one shot on Scrafty. Banette able to farm up, and at this point, you can just let it go because Banette has done its job, and now you can safely bring in Shadow Walrein. Waiting the switch timer, in comes Shadow Walrein. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Hopping into the next match, sending Swampert into Shadow Walrein. This is a bit of a tough matchup, but Swampert does have play here, as landing an Earthquake will hit for massive neutral damage. This is just an Icicle Spear. Swampert is not going to have to shield this whatsoever. Opponent went for the catch on the Cresselia, but great discipline, holding on to the energy and able to bring in Banette. Banette should be able to tank any one move here and then fire off the Shadow Ball. And Shadow Ball, from this range, may actually be enough to KO. It's going to be very close. Banette charging up. Shadow Ball gets Cresselia low, but Cresselia reaches the last second move, and Banette is going to be forced to commit a shield. Thankfully, Banette does leave with a Shadow Ball loaded, so that way, whatever the opponent brings in, they're probably going to have to shield right back. Back in comes that Shadow Walrein. Shadow Ball is going to get the shield as Shadow Walrein looks to farm down. Swampert does have the Earthquake loaded. In it comes, but he's actually going to be going for the Hydro Cannon bait, trying to get the shield, and does get the shield. The animation was a little weird there, but he did actually end up shielding. Lets that go, brings in the Shadow Walrein, and a fantastic catch. Very nicely done. Able to save a ton of energy on the Swampert, and now it's going to be a race. Able to get to the Earthquake, and this will be taking out the opponent's Walrein. We'll have to see what they have in the back. They have their own Swampert, and this game should be over because the opponent is running the Shadow Swampert, meaning that a Shadow Icicle Spear plus a second should just about KO here. All you have to do is very safely shield up the Walrein and then fire off that second Icicle Spear, and that will be game over. Walrein taking down the Swampert, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, getting Swampert into Defense Deoxys. This is a fairly neutral lead, but personally, I would rather be the Swampert in this matchup. The Swampert can just fire off Hydro Cannons whenever it wants to, whereas the Defense Deoxys does have to be mindful, because after it throws a Psycho Boost, it is going to lower its own attack by 2 stages. DD has farmed up a ton of energy. They are going to fire off the Psycho Boost. Swampert goes for the Hydro Cannon, but a very nice catch by the opponent, catching the Hydro Cannon onto Mandibuzz. Thankfully, he does have a great response in Walrein, but before he switches out, he banks back-to-back Hydro Cannons. That way, he'll have a bunch of energy for later in the match. Shadow Walrein firing off the Icicle Spear. That's not enough to KO the Mandibuzz, but it should put it into farm down range. This Mandibuzz does have a ton of loaded energy. Walrein can tank 2 moves here, but it might leave it into farm down range. So he has a tough decision to make here. He will decide to commit the shield. This way, the Defense Deoxys shouldn't be able to farm down, and if the Deoxys wants to take out the Walrein, it's going to have to throw a move. Firing off the Icicle Spear. Icicle Spear lands, and he's able to get the second one off as well. This is big. This will come very close to KOing. It barely does not. Deoxys able to survive on 1 HP. Rock Slide takes out the Walrein. In comes Banette, and in the back they have Scrafty, and this is not looking good. The question is, can Lightning strike twice? Banette going for the Dazzling Gleam, but it's shielded. That is very unfortunate. Back in comes Swampert. Swampert is going straight for the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon able to land, and Scrafty is at a move. I believe this was a CMP sack. It was, so he was able to catch the foul play to prevent them from going straight power-up punch. A very nice play. Fires off the Hydro. This is going to be tough. Able to get the mud shot through. I believe this is a power-up punch. The question is, can Swampert survive this? Opponent tries to switch out. They thought he had a move. He was one short, able to mud shot down the Deoxys, and that is going to be game over. Able to take down the Scrafty, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, sending Swampert into Scrafty. Scrafty is bad news for the back line, so if you're going to see it anywhere, it is pretty nice to catch it on the lead. Scrafty farms up to the foul play, and they go straight for it, dealing some pretty significant damage. Undeterred, Swampert is going to fire back with the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon does get a shield from Scrafty. Swampert able to reach a second Hydro, and I believe they can reach a third if Scrafty tries to farm down. Lands the Hydro. Scrafty does not want a third to land, and they're going to fire off their energy. They go for the foul play, so they should be energy dry now. And now Banette can come in and overfarm quite a bit. Banette is going to have to commit a shield, but since they have shield advantage, that is perfectly fine. Banette is going to be able to farm up very close to 100 energy, and this way, Banette gets an energy lead versus whatever they have in the back. Down goes Scrafty. In the back is Jellicent, and things are looking really good. Banette going for the Shadow Ball, throws on alignment, which does cause the opponent to get a free Hex. That is very unfortunate. Has to shield, it's probably going to be a Bubble Beam, but has to respect the Shadow Ball. It is the Bubble Beam. Banette is going to be able to get there, overfarmed through on alignment, and the opponent is able to catch. That is very unfortunate. Shadow Ball lands on the Nidoqueen, unable to bank a Shadow Ball, and in comes Shadow Walrein. Shadow Walrein is going to be tanking the Poison Fang, farming up, and going straight for the Icicle Spear. Icicle Spear is going to be able to take out that Nidoqueen, and then the question is, can the Walrein reach the Earthquake? Jellicent farms up. This will be the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is lethal from this range. Can Banette reach the Shadow Ball? Banette falls just short, and he loses a heartbreakingly close game. Hopping into the next match, sending Swampert into Drapion, a very nice lead. Opponent is going to immediately save switch into Shadow Swampert, and he's going to respond with his Shadow Walrein. Pretty nice matchup for Shadow Walrein, but you do have to be careful of the Earthquake. Shields it up, and it is the Earthquake. That is massive. He can now overfarm quite a bit here, and he's going for the Icicle Spear. Icicle Spear is not going to be enough to KO here, but it will get them very low. But the Swampert is at another Earthquake. Might have overfarmed a bit too much. Gets hit with the Earthquake, barely able to hang on and fire off the last second Icicle Spear. The question is, can he farm down the Swampert? He cannot. Swampert is able to live on very low HP. Banette able to farm down. In comes the Drapion, and in the back, the opponent has Scrafty. Swampert with an energy lead should do fairly well against Scrafty. Able to land the Hydro Cannon, and a Hydro Cannon plus an Earthquake should be very close to KOing. Opponent goes straight for the power-up punch. He is not shielding a thing here, and he's going straight for the Earthquake. Hoping for the no shield. And he gets it. Massive damage. Opponent is going to reach one final power-up punch for the road, but that is totally fine because the Drapion is not going to be able to Poison Sting down. Farming up quite a bit of energy here and going for the Hydro Cannon bait, hoping that the opponent is going to shield, but the opponent calls it. Brings in the Banette, basically just to force the opponent to throw energy here. Opponent goes for the crunch. That gets the Banette very low. Banette able to reach a Shadow Ball, and this is probably going to be grabbing a shield because it would get that Drapion very low. They decide to call it, and from here, this is just mud shot farm down range. They did not respect the resisted Shadow Ball. They get farmed down, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, sending Swampert into Obstagoon. Much like the Scrafty lead, the back line does not want to see this whatsoever, so it is very nice to catch it on the lead. Obstagoon is just going to do what Obstagoon does best, spamming out Night Slashes and hoping for the boost. Swampert does need an Earthquake plus a Hydro to KO. He goes straight for the Earthquake, and he's able to land it. That is fantastic. Able to get through the Mud Shot as they fire off the Night Slash. Kind of has to shield this, because you do not want this Obstagoon loose against the back line. He is going straight for the Hydro Cannon. Hydro Cannon takes down the Obstagoon, and that is a massive threat out of the way for the back line. In the back, the opponent is going to have Shadow Swampert. He's going to be firing off the Hydro Cannon. This is only neutral damage, but will do a ton of damage at that to the opponent. Opponent is forced to throw a Hydro Cannon, which is quite nice, and now he can pretty safely bring in the Shadow Walrein. Shadow Walrein farming up, going for the Icicle Spear, and able to get there. This should be forcing a shield from that Shadow Swampert since it does have a lot of energy. They farm up, and this could very easily be the Earthquake. He shields it up. Unfortunately, he gets baited. Throws the Icicle Spear, and this should be grabbing that final shield from the Swampert if they want to keep the energy. They do. Brings in Banette, almost able to snipe, and in the back is Shadow Nidoqueen. Going to be farming up and going for the Shadow Ball. The question is, does Shadow Ball KO here? It barely does not, and Shadow Nidoqueen is able to reach the Earth Power. That is very unfortunate. In comes the Walrein. The question is, does the Swampert have the Earthquake loaded? Moment of truth. They do, and he loses a heartbreakingly close game. Hopping into the final match, leading Swampert into Jellicent. We've seen how he typically likes to play out this lead. He'll stay in, farm up a bunch of energy, and wait for them to fire off their Shadow Ball. He'll tank the damage, and then he's going to save switch into that Banette. In comes Banette. Jellicent staying in and going straight for a Bubble Beam, not even faking a Shadow Ball. He doesn't have to shield this, that's just a Bubble Beam. And then they're going to bring in their Galarian Stunfisk. The reason why they Bubble Beamed actually makes quite a bit of sense here. Because if you don't Bubble Beam, 2 Shadow Balls look like they would be enough to KO. Whereas with that Bubble Beam, it looks like the G-Fisk is going to be able to tank both Shadow Balls plus the Shadow Claws and fire off a move. At this point, Banette has done its job. He can very safely bring in the Swampert here and get a nice energy lead, or he could bring in that Shadow Walrein as well, and he's going to bring in the Walrein. Walrein going for the farm down, but just not able to get there. Walrein is going to commit the first shield, as that Rock Slide would be doing quite a bit of damage. In the back, the opponent has Talonflame. He banks an Earthquake and brings in Swampert, and this Swampert has a ton of energy. Hydro Cannon gets the shield. Talonflame continues to farm, and this Swampert is firing off Hydro Cannon after Hydro Cannon. They farm up more after Hydro Cannon. 3 Hydro Cannons in a row, gets the Talonflame low. They leave with 100 energy. Jellicent farming up, and they're firing off a move. He is going to let this go. Just a Bubble Beam. Swampert able to hang on and reach the last second Earthquake. This is not going to be enough to KO, but it is going to be getting that Jellicent very low. Back in comes the Shadow Walrein. Shadow Walrein going for the Earthquake. Earthquake takes him out, and at this point, all he has to do is call the Flame Charge. He lets it through. It's the Flame Charge, and that is a good game. All in all, some very cool battles featuring XL Banette in the Open Ultra League. Banette is definitely a Pokemon that would benefit from getting a bait move, as currently having Shadow Ball as its cheapest charge move really does limit its options, whereas if it had access to something like Shadow Punch, at least something that gave it some spamminess potential, maybe it could have more play than what it has now, whereas currently, it's stuck as being a Pokemon that's primarily for fun, but doesn't have a ton of meta relevance overall. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.